Good morning, good evening, wherever you are in the world or whenever you're listening to this. Kaylee's woken up about 15 minutes ago. I've just had beans on toast. It's going to be a meme. Let's go.
I got a nice image
Like
for
it
that.
isn't anyways.
I'll just
So
slide
joining
on.
us today is Kaylee, our secretary, Aidan, our fundraising and campaigns officer, and myself, the president. You'll get to know us all quite a lot over the next coming weeks. If you don't already know us already, and if you don't, that's a problem. Today's theme of discussion is going to be different festivals and gigs that we've experienced, how bad or good the experiences were, and oops, and different ways that we've like strategically gone around surviving them. Basically, the reason I just stuttered is because Kaylee has decided to leave the stream right at the beginning. Clearly, it's good quality content.
Hello.
Imagine if we did an
Possibly
actual
cut that bit out
in-person
in the actual
stream.
podcast.
Imagine if they did an
Wow.
in-person stream and they just went disappeared.
My
So
internet just cried.
I'm going to start off this sort of discussion on a rolling pin type fashion. So I'll say some stuff and then you discuss if you've seen the same thing. So festivals that I've personally been to is I'm trying not to sneeze, Download and Bloodstock. I think the first one I went to was in like 2014. And I think the weirdest experience was for me is my dad went to like Monsters of Rock in like the 80s and 90s and was describing how much of a shit show it was. And I was like crapping myself thinking that I was going to get like bottles of piss thrown at me. I did, but that's not the point. I was really scared about it because he hyped it up to be like this 80s shenanigans and it's just a bunch of teenagers in 2014 like, what did he bring me? Is it so? I was wondering, like, English festivals can be like proper grotty and really, really dirty. And I say this because, again, have actual piss been thrown over me. And I wondered, is it the same in like Europe? And Aidan, I know you've been to European festivals. Is it like the same level of like mess?
Well, as I haven't been to a UK festival, I don't know what you mean by mess.
Bad, just everything you can imagine that's bad. Yes.
Like, we have compostable toilets in Germany on campsite.
No. Anyone who's ever used the British porta potty.
So I haven't been to like
not
the
compostable.
massive festival, but what I have been to is fairly big festivals, like I'd say 80 to 100,000 people. And the toilets are perfectly clean. Strangely, drugs, there's like none that I could really see. Like, compared to a UK festival, they're everywhere.
So when you enter UK festivals like Bloodstock and Download, they have amnesty boxes. And I think the same happens at gigs as well in some of them, especially in central London, which is literally like, we know you've bought drugs, please drop them off in this handy little box, and then we won't like moan at you for it. But what they've then done is just created a like depository for everybody's drugs that someone undoubtedly will break into at some point during the festival and get like hundreds of thousands of pounds worth of drugs. It's like, that was the worst idea.
Yeah, all of these drug-using festival goers, let's collect all the drugs and put them in one space because no one's going to touch it.
Easy access space.
I've never heard
But
of
it's
that
weird
before.
that like it's massively different depending on where you go to the festival. I mean, I've never been to an American one, but I'm assuming they're similar to more English ones than they are European. But it's amazing the differences, even like between festival and festival. So like you go to Download and it is just mess everywhere, unless you go to the eco camp because you get free tickets for picking up rubbish. But it's like dirt will be all over the floor, leftover plastics, etc. Bloodstock's a little better. I think that the wonderful thing about Bloodstock is it has a designated crackhead camp, which is called Midgard, which is basically if you want to go to like stay up until 4 a.m, be absolute lunatics, you go there, and everywhere else is pretty safe and pretty certain. Supposedly you have to have like designated be a lunatic areas at festivals.
I think what I found in Germany was they know how to drink well and fun. I find UK drinking is very much like, let's see how quickly I can get to the end of this pint. Or the drinking games, the drink is a punishment. So if you fuck up, you have to drink. Whereas in Germany, the goal was to finish the drink, and you've got to try and like... So one of these games is you have like 2 bottles either end of like a long strip. And people stand up either side, and they have to throw a ball at the enemy team's bottle for it to knock over. And then the people that side have to run, pick up the bottle, make it stand upright, then run back. The time which they are all back behind the line is when you have to stop drinking.
Oh, okay.
So it's very much
It's
like
a
you're trying
really
to drink.
complicated beer pong.
Yeah.
Well, the beer pong
Like
is
relay
like
beer pong.
punishment, like I said.
Oh, and then
mean-
meanwhile in England, you just have, I've told you to down it, so you have to down it. These are the rules.
Exactly. That's
Rules
what I
are
found
you
much more
drink?
entertaining.
Why? I told you.
Especially like one of the things that the family that I go to Bloodstock with, we created what was referred to as a Sambuca breakfast, which is basically just a fruity version of Hair of the Dog. Because if you're waking up off of a cold floor surrounded by rubbish and shouty dickheads, the best way to wake up, we have discovered through many years of trying, is 2 shots of Sambuca in a half-pint glass with like a little bit of orange Fanta. Surprisingly works. And you just down it. It's got sugar, bubbles, and alcohol in it. You'll feel fine after 20 minutes.
It is one way to wake yourself up.
Do you have any other like Hair of the Dog cures that you would recommend to people? Because I have quite a few. I've got Sambuca breakfast, Mars bar and a Lucozade, always a good one. Sugar, more sugar, and
Nice.
some sugar. What other ones are there?
I don't know if I've really done Hair of the Dog.
Really?
Yeah.
It's the best way. If you know, clearly we're not uni students at this point.
No, for me,
Yeah, no.
the cool down till when I get hungover is quite a long time. So by the time it's like the next day, sometimes I'm still quite drunk, especially when I've been heavily drinking. So I just go,
same.
I'll just have some more. It's not like it's a hangover cure. It's just continuing the drunkenness.
See, this is why like Hair of the Dog exists for things like festivals, because you can ride that wave for about a day or so and then you'll crash, but you need to stop yourself from crashing if you're at a 5-day festival. So like, how do you stop yourself from just being that guy who sleeps through the headliner? Because fuck those guys.
I have this, there was this thing in the German festivals, which I don't know you have. When you're buying a ticket, you can buy like crates of beer. So I guess
That's not
you
a
don't
thing.
have it.
It's an amazing idea.
Basically, when you're buying like €150 ticket for this like a couple-day festival, you can spend like £10 for a crate of 24 Becks, because the event was sponsored by Becks. So you have to, I think you get it with your ticket through the mail, and you just have to exchange it, and they give you literally a crate, and you carry it back to your campsite.
Oh my god. I think one of the major differences I've noticed between like English festivals and European ones is that European ones will do everything they can to let you have fun with the money that you have, and then English ones will con you out of as much fucking money as possible. Because if you want to buy beer, like crates of beer at British festivals, you A, have to be lucky, it has to be big enough to have a supermarket in the middle, and B, it's going to be like 30 quid for like 12 cans. The prices are so ridiculously expensive. Once you enter the gates of a festival, your wallet will cry consistently until you leave again, because it's just even like pints in cups are still like £5 a pint, which doesn't sound bad, but when you're drinking for 5 days straight, it mounds out.
You've reminded me of another big difference. There's another difference between European festivals is they have an on-site supermarket. Literally, you can go in, there's like bread rolls, there's like spreads, there's like hot food, there's cold food. This is like supermarket prices.
Really?
Not vendor prices. There's vendors around as well, but there's usually a long queue to get in. But
there is a supermarket in the village at Download, but it is ridiculously expensive. Like, it has all the conveniences that you need, which is very helpful, especially when you're a woman at a festival, but like, it's you should have bought it. Like, you should have prepared and brought it with you. Like, we went to they have a smaller supermarket at Bloodstock as well, but it's literally just like got things like Coke and random other crap and like silly string for some reason. I don't know why, but it does.
An excellent idea.
Like a bottle of 7-Up is like £3, £3.50 when it's normally like £1.
The supermarket sold beer.
No, these supermarkets do.
Sold
but
like crates of beer and kegs.
I think the only comparable thing is, I can't remember the guy's name. I'll have to give him a shout out once I've googled it. I think it's like Fat Franks or something. He's a legend. He like to Google. It owns a camping shop that goes to all of the different festivals across the country, And I love him to bits because he's literally saved my ass so many times when like you've arrived and you've forgotten a sleeping bag or your sort of air mattress has completely killed itself. He sells everything you can imagine to do with camping, including like really fluffy blankets for a tenner. And when you're off your nut at 1 a.m, shivering your tits off because it's pissed it down, this shop, it is Fat Frank's camping shop. He's a legend. I've given you many of my monies. It's amazing. You can literally not bring anything to the festival with you. No chairs, no tents, no sleeping bag, nothing, and you can get it all there. And it's like the most convenient thing I've ever experienced in my life, especially because everyone forgets something at least. I'm assuming they have
an
those.
entire
Yeah.
tent before because my
Oh,
original
Lord.
one wasn't big enough for. It was big enough for like a double air mattress just to fit me and someone else in it. It was comfy. But then we realized, oh shit, we got to fit bags in there.
Ah,
So we just bought
Become
another
the
tent but
bag.
bags.
that works.
Yeah.
Well, I'm quite bougie when it comes to how I camp at festivals, and I think that's mainly because my dad does like camper vanning. So he buys the camper van tickets,
Yeah.
drops off all of my stuff at the gate, and then just allows me to walk in, which means I can take 2 or 3 trips to a relatively close car. So I can take like an extra duvet and an extra blanket and just be very snug. But I'm really bougie with how I do it because I have like a 4-man tent for me. It'll have a double sleeping like mattress in it. I'll have
Wow.
a sleeping bag, a duvet, a blanket, another blanket.
Right, so
Yeah.
download next year will be my first festival. What are like the camping tips and tricks that I need to know? Like tent recommendations, bedding recommendations. Like, what's the ideal setup?
My biggest recommendation is you can arrive with absolutely nothing but a good tent and you'll have a good time, because you can spend as much as you want on trying to stay warm, but if your tent is like a cheap one that you bought from Asda 2 days before, you're going to have a shit time. I've seen so many people just go to the Tesco's down the road and buy like a set of camping stuff, and it's just, they're not waterproof, they won't last the wind. If you're going to invest in anything, invest in a good tent, like a 150 quid tent, because you need to stay dry and warm above all things. The only way you can do that is with a sort of temporary roof above your head.
I think Kaylee is also part of the Scouts and Guides organization on campus, though. So I think all you get is a tarpaulin over the top and a roll mat.
Just get a tree,
Yeah,
right?
doable.
Get some sticks.
Been there, done that.
Yeah.
Just get a hammock, like maybe a waterproof cover for it. Like, we're not sure yet. Maybe just an umbrella that we've kind of jimmied into the middle of the hammock, trying
For
to
the
sleep.
hammock, there's no trees. It's just on the floor.
There's no trees, just a hammock, just laying on the floor. I get there to the middle of this field and go, oh, maybe the hanging hammock wasn't a great idea. Try and sit out between like 2 people's tents and hope they don't hate me.
I think speaking of like lots of people's tents, another tip that you need to be aware of is get there as early as you can. You might have to sit and wait around for 2 or 3 hours, but if you get there on time, you've got there late, because everybody gets there on time and you simply won't get a good enough spot. And if you want to sort of have a little bit of room, especially if you're going with a group of mates, if you want to have like a little sort of, I don't want to say village because they don't encourage that, but if you want to all be together and have the suitable amount of room, don't get there on time, get there early. Otherwise you're just not gonna have the time. One trip tip I can't speak tip is the one that I do at Bloodstock, and that's again because Dad does the camper van stuff. We get our wristbands as soon as we drive into the campsite, which is before the gates have opened. So I can literally walk up to the gates when no camper has been let in yet with my wristband and be like, hi, I'd like to be let in please to set up my tent, and they're like, okay. It's pretty fun.
I'm not paid enough to stop you.
Genuinely. There are ways to get around it.
Basically.
You just need to go and figure it out. Other ones are there.
Confidence.
Another one, especially in terms of like weather, even if you think you're safe with just an airbed, you're not. Bring a roll mat. Because if you've just bought an airbed, all you're going to be doing is warming up the air inside the airbed. You'll lose all of your body heat. Always bring a roll mat to put above or below it, or like an extra blanket to put above or below it to insulate. I think those are really sensible tips. I'm trying to think of like stupid ones.
Well, what I found is when it gets very hot, I don't know how hot it gets at download because I haven't been yet, but they have those like water fountain things.
Mm-hmm.
Just like splash your face, your entire body, everything.
That's a good. You just reminded me of one. If you have alcohol and you can store it underneath your tent, it stops it getting stolen and keeps it insulated to the ground. So if it's hot as fuck, it won't be like refrigerated cold, but it will be cold enough to not make you want to vomit in the morning, afternoon. I'm responsible. But put it underneath the tent, like put it under the floor mat of the tent, and it will keep it insulated and stop it from getting too hot. Big brain.
Top tips.
I think like
It was so on that front. Is it worth bringing something like a cooler?
No.
Or is it just not worth it?
It is if you're going as like a big family group, I suppose. But even then, you're not living a life of luxury for these 5 days. You're not going to need like fresh meats and cheeses and stuff. The only reason I know people have taken coolers before is for milk and things like that. For coffee in the morning, because some people really can't get away from their teas and coffees in the morning. But I personally have never taken one. It's heavy. There's more room that you can just put beer in instead of a cooler, or an extra blanket if you like me. It's really not, for me personally, worth it, because if you wanted something that's really cold, low power mode, hello. If you want something that is really, really cold and going to be useful, just get it from the shop. Continue this discussion. I'm going to get my phone charger so I can actually continue doing this stream.
Some cool things that I've seen.
We have top tier.
Are entire paddling pools. And so people bring like those kids ones, fill them with water.
Yeah.
And when it's hot, they just put their like feet in it, or they have their beers just floating around, or like little ducks. I think
that's an excellent idea. Like,
that probably sounds great until you go somewhere like Download where it always rains, so that it will literally just slide down the hill. Or if you go somewhere like Bloodstock, which is normally quite hot and very dusty, so though that water sounds very refreshing for the first 45 minutes, it's going to get muddy and naff. And then you're going to get the stewardesses going around being like, can you stop pouring like 60 litres worth of water over the floor, please?
Yeah, because you've got to empty it as well. Like, if it gets
like, what are you going to do with that after? And no one's going to want to roll it up and take it home, so it's just going to add to plastic waste. Do continue. I'm still minor technical difficulties.
So you said about not having ham and cheeses and stuff on campsite, but those are also things that were sold.
Charcuterie?
That was sold in the German supermarket, so that was a brilliant time. We had fresh bread. We cut into it. It was like cheesy bread, and we put like cheese and ham onto it, and like we spent it with all the money we saved on going to a foreign ticket instead of an English ticket.
Someone's just showing off now.
I think one topic of discussion which is sort of hotly contested, depending on who you are and what festival you've gone to, is if the showers are worth it. And this is something that I've had many an argument over, because I know a lot of people, like especially at Download where it gets messy, want to have that ability to just shower off. And I've always had the question of like, is it worth it? Because personally, I have never used one. I mean, that makes me sound proper grim, but like you can take body wipes, you can take things like dry shampoo. Even before, I've taken shampoo with me and just used the water fountains. We had a water fight and I washed my hair because it was that hot. But I do know also some people, especially like as women, if it's sort of the time of the month or things like that and you're feeling really uncomfortable, going and having a shower would be really, really great. And it's definitely something I can see the advantages of. I wanted your guys' opinions because I'm just a skanky hoe.
What, having a shower on site?
I mean, like,
is it worth it? Yeah.
How do the showers work there?
So in England, you have to like pay sometimes like £5, and they'll let you have a shower for about half an hour. And that's about it.
How do the showers work? Is it like a cubicle?
It depends which one you go to. So there's at Bloodstock they have like a block of cubicles. So it's not like you're in front of other people. You do have that element of privacy, and I think it's the same at Download. Again, I've never used them. I've walked past the Bloodstock ones once.
That's another difference. For us, it was free. There's literally just like taps from the ceiling. You just whoom, all your clothes in front of everyone, just shower.
Oh no, that's a European thing. Like, as someone who's half European, I do understand the difference. Like, if you went to somewhere like France for a festival, everyone would just be like, "Let's get naked," and you'd be like, "Yeah." And then the Brits get a little bit scared.
It was warm.
Yeah, we're like, no, thank you.
And so really needed after some of those mosh pits. Like when it's a hot festival, something you notice in the mosh pits is the dust.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. But even then, the other way around, the mosh pits when it's muddy, like I absolutely refuse. If you never moshed, oh my gosh.
I've never moshed in the mud. I've moshed like indoors a lot, and I've moshed outside in the dust.
Yeah.
I've never moshed in the mud.
Mud is so much worse. So because and even
why I
just for
haven't
like
done it.
standing purposes, like trying to watch. If you're 5 or 6 people away from the mosh pit and you're just trying to watch, you're gonna fall over because people are bumping into you and there is zero traction. Once you get to festival level of mud, there's no going back. Don't bother trying to wash your clothes. Don't bother trying to wash your shoes. It ain't gonna work. You're just gonna have to deal with it at that point. It was I think 2 years ago when me and my dad and my stepmom went, and it oofed it down like full on. The rain hurt to stand under, and we were having like long thought out discussions about how we were going to survive the next like 2 days because I couldn't see my shoelaces to untie them because they were under so much mud. I had to like hack away at it
Oh
with
my
a
lord.
screwdriver.
Jesus. No,
But
I
it's
never
so
won
much
that.
fun still.
Oh.
Like one thing again, a minor tip is if you can survive the cold in just wearing shorts, no matter the weather, wear shorts because it's so more difficult to get mud off of jeans than it is off of skin. Skin you can literally just brush it off and it'll be fine.
Yeah.
But mud, it's awful on jeans. The hot, it can be too much. If it's like even misty in the morning, it will get on all your clothes. If you can survive in shorts, live in shorts. That's basically what I do all the time because it's so much easier to just scratch mud off than it is to go in a shower with them, you know?
I think the same works
Yeah.
as a man with just like open t-shirts as well, like shirts. Honestly, if you just have like
Yeah.
no shirt or like unbuttoned down, it's so much like just if anything comes in you just instead of having to go through like tons of effort of like, oh god, let me change this t-shirt, it smells of sweat, stuff just loose fitting and natural.
That works. And you said about shoes not being able to see your shoelaces. Are wellies worth it?
No, do not wear wellies. Oh my god, is that Stacey who's arrived?
Stacey?
Anyway,
Why
don't
not?
ever wear wellies. I personally hate them because they keep your feet cold. They don't keep them warm unless you're a bougie bitch who can afford the hunter ones with the fur inlay.
For me, I do wellies with an insole, and that does help a lot.
Bougie bitch.
An
Bougie bitch.
They're like
I've
10
always been
quid.
an advocate for just hiking.
Yeah,
Hi,
yeah.
Stacey.
Hi, Stacey.
Stacey has now officially joined us. I think she's muted, however, which is slightly complicated. I'm sure
Yes.
she'll join us in conversation in a moment.
Ooh.
Ooh,
Cool.
drum roll, please. There we go.
Ooh.
Woo!
Hey, perfect.
So
I'm
we were
so sorry,
discussing.
I thought we were doing this tomorrow.
We're organised.
It's
We
okay.
were
Yes,
discussing
we are
different,
prepared.
like,
I think we need another person from
appropriate
UK doing UK festivals instead of me talking about my bougie
Woo.
experiences abroad.
So, Stacey, your input on this is probably going to be quite useful. And we're having the debate of if wellies at festivals are worth it. I'm an advocate for no wellies, hiking boots all the way, mainly because they hurt your feet get cold, and they break so easily. Like wellies aren't going to last more than 2 or 3 years at a festival before they just fall apart. Whereas my hiking boots have lasted every single festival I've been to. So I wondered your opinion. What's your go-to footwear for when you go to places like Download?
I am also not a welly person. I bought them once and I actually found them really uncomfortable, and they have a distinct lack of toe caps.
Yes, a very good point.
Yeah.
Anything with steel toe caps.
See, I didn't even think of that. I was
works.
thinking more like personal comfort rather than someone standing on me. But that is a given. If you go to a festival, you are going to get stood on a lot.
I've actually got kind of a shoe anecdote, festival related, if that would help.
Go for
So
it.
one year at
Yes.
Download, I was wearing little kind of like slip-on shoes just for the 2 days at the beginning where there's no bands. And I burn in the sun so easily, and I'd put suntan lotion on like head to toe and forgot my feet, and the tops of my feet burnt to a crisp like the very first day, which meant unfortunately after that I then couldn't wear shoes that covered them. So I had to keep wearing the same shoes and with the tops of my exposed, and it meant that everyone was jumping on my horrifically sunburnt lobster feet the whole weekend. Horrible.
Sunburnt lobster.
And then I got the weirdest tan line ever because it's sort of obviously where it sort of darkened, it just looked like the tops of my feet were dirty.
Oh no.
It's really bad.
I think another element of what good shoes to wear is, yes, that you have comfort for you, but wearing certain shoes that are considerate to other people. Because one of my absolute pet hates is when someone wearing the biggest, stompiest, most metallic New Rocks you've ever seen decides that they, on this one day, wish to crowd surf into your head, which has happened to me so many times. It's unbelievable. In fact, last year I got a black eye because some girl, skinny little thing, really easy to pick up, but just had like shoes that must have been heavier than her just go into my face. I was like, thank you for that. I now cannot see. It didn't affect the experience too much, but it's just like, if you're the type of person who goes to festivals and moshes or crowd surfs, make sure what you're wearing isn't going to hurt other people as well. Which seems like we are obviously a very considering, caring lot, and it is one of the things you do have to consider. Also, they're not that comfy.
I think like the shoes that rock, specifically the ones with the big like metal strips on the at the back of the heel kind of thing, they're particular ones for getting like donked on the back of the head with.
Yeah.
As people go over.
I think one of my worst ever pit experiences, well, as actually crowd surfing experiences, was when I saw Ghost at Bloodstock. I think it was 2017. I'm not 100% sure on that. I was pretty much at the front with my mate Ben, and we're two quite big people, so we were getting everybody over the front whenever they were crowd surfing, which makes no sense because if you've ever seen Ghost, they're not a crowd surfing band unless it's like two specific songs.
Yeah, no.
But it's a festival, everyone was off their nut. And this bloke came over, and like, if you weigh over 100 kilos, please don't land on me alone. It hurts. I can't pick up 100 kilos. And he landed just on my shoulder, like full on came straight down. None of us could grab him quick enough. And he kept grabbing at me to stop himself from falling. So he just grabbed onto my nipple bar. And now it isn't in the same place. It hurts so much. And I like, the cutest part was like, it was fine because I was quite drunk, so I couldn't really feel it until the next day. But I made eye contact with this girl across from me, and she went, "Oh, okay." It's like, it was so funny.
That guy was digging for diamonds.
That's not something I'd laugh at.
Mosh pit stories are great. I've had so many fun ones. Like, there was one time I had to go see Ailstorm and Sabaton. It was like in 2015 or something. And there was a guy, quite obviously very into both of them, who decided to turn up wearing chainmail armor all over his body. How the security let him in, I really don't know. But he got let in, and he was really, really an avid mosher. So everybody basically left that gig that day covered in small, tiny, circular bruises all across their body. Because he just gone into you. I was like, thanks for that, dude. Really appreciate it. That's another thing. It's not just your shoes, it's your clothing.
I have had a friend get stabbed in the eye again at down by a studded bracelet that someone was wearing with the spikes on. And when the spike went in her eye at the side of her eyeball, and her eye was rough.
Oh, that sounds nasty.
She was fine.
It's like, like little things that you just don't think of.
And then there's the big things that you do think of that are probably more dangerous but have less accidents. The little things cause more accidents, like studs, pins, all that kind of stuff going into people. Then you have people just bin jousting.
Do you guys wear watches?
Not to festivals.
Because
how do you know when people are playing?
You can normally, like, hear. But if you're trying to plan it, I mean, I keep my phone on me, and it's one of the only important things I will keep on me. Though people advise you don't, it means I can get hold of people in an emergency, also get hold of people if I've lost them, and tell what the time is. However, if you don't want to like take it out, because a lot of people use like the zipping undershirt bags to stop anything from getting nicked, and if you don't want to keep getting it out to check, if you've got a good enough brain for it, my go-to is to remember the set list of bands for that day, because you can buy like the little lanyards with all the times and everything on them and who's playing when. If you can remember the times and remember who you want to see, you don't need to take your phone out, because if you can hear someone who was on before, you'll then remember who it is. Or like the Sunday that we're going to go to download the following year, I'm not leaving main stage all day, so I don't have to remember times. Yeah, that works pretty well. Except I think there's like one band that comes on, and that's my designated like lunch hour, and that's about it.
Well,
run away, get lunch,
Yeah.
come back.
for me, I found there's like this Casio watch with a like it's like a Velcro type wristband, which is like around a tenner, but it's like super sturdy, and it's perfect for just like telling the time, especially when I want to go to like.
What is a for?
Oh shit! Wolf Mother's on this stage, but the Cure's on that stage in like half an hour. I want to get there before
Yeah.
the music starts, so I can get to the front. But I also don't want to miss all of this act, so that's
Yeah,
what
I get that. Is timekeeping is so difficult, especially if I find timekeeping is more difficult on days like Saturday and Sunday. Because if you've gotten there Wednesday or Thursday, by that time you're shattered, and you think that a 30-minute nap is not going to become a 30-minute nap. You're going to sleep for an hour and a half, and you do end up missing people. So timekeeping is such an important skill to have. If any careers officers always tell you that timekeeping is a good employable skill, it's also a good life skill because you need to.
Yeah.
Should we
With things like phones, how does like charging them work?
Right, that's a good question. I personally take about 2 or 3 power banks with me, charge them up at home. But if you don't have that, there are semi-expensive companies who go to festivals and you can plug in your phone, leave, and come back. But that does require a level of trust that I don't have. So I'm more for just sort of leaving it in the tent. And again, if you have the benefit of having a dad go with you who camps in a van that has a battery, you just wander over to the camper van campsite and just plug it in for half an hour and it will do you. I think that the most efficient way is just don't use it as much as possible. Like just keep it on airplane mode in your pocket for timekeeping and emergencies, and that's about it. Otherwise, you'll just kill it.
And switch it off at night.
Yes, you don't need it when you're sleeping. Like.
I have another question.
True.
So last time, I was just going to say, sorry. Last time I went, just on that note, they didn't charge to charge your phones, if that makes sense. You have to pay anything, but the queues were enormous, like as in prohibitively long. So that's another thing as well, is that even if you've got the money, you might end up having to waste like half an hour waiting to actually get somewhere to queue.
Yeah, I think it's like the download ones you don't have to pay for, but the queues are humongous. But the Bloodstock ones you do, and the queues are a lot less. So I think it kind of weighs up the pros and cons there.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah.
Sorry.
Adrian, do you want to go ahead with your question?
Yeah.
Oh, I think I forgot. Oh, no? Have I? I've lost my track of thought.
Or train, either one.
Train of thought.
Well, the train's not going to go very far without a track, is
it? We were talking about like power banks and things, if that jogs your memory.
Yeah, and phones and stuff.
I think. Oh yes. What is your opinion on photos at gigs and stuff?
Ooh. I mean, I do take photos, but I don't take them very often. There are entire years that I haven't taken a photo at a festival. If you're going to take a photo, take 2 or 3 and then put your damn phone down. The last thing I want to see, especially at places like Bloodstock, which is meant to be like slightly more alternative and less mainstream, is a bunch of people with their phones in the air. I really don't want to see it, especially if you're at the front. Like, move.
No, the worst bit is when they do like a shot of everyone around them, and they're like, so they just do like a photo like this, and then like shine it in your eyes, and they're like, oh, look at everyone here, and you're like.
I think there are times for it, and
so bad.
You'll know when those times are. Like, you take a couple for the band and you put it in your pocket. If something comes up that needs recording, do it because everyone's going to appreciate it. Like a good example is in the Ghost Mosh Pit, everyone was circle pitting around a pot of garlic mayonnaise. That requires a snap on your phone. Right? But just sort of be considerate with it. Don't be recording entire sets on your phone. Experience it. That's what you've paid for. You're not there to watch it again through your phone. No, I'm not a big fan of it. Also, there's people who, like, if you're a press member, you're meant to have a camera that big. If you've come into that arena with a camera that big and you're not a press member, what are you doing? Stop it.
Also, I found if you want to see like the sets, usually they're uploaded.
Exactly. So like, just watch them elsewhere. Most festivals will professionally record it for you. You're not missing out. Don't worry.
The photos which I take normally at festivals are like when the stage is empty. The stage is empty, so but the next band that's about to come on has got their set already up there.
Mm.
So you and your friends can like
Yeah.
take a group photo in front of like the band you're seeing, like remember the time, but without
Yeah.
being like obscuring the actual show, because you're there for the moment, not for showing other people that you don't need evidence
Yeah.
Yeah.
that you got to
Like
see
it's
Ghost.
just a flex.
If you said you watched Ghost, I wouldn't go, prove it, show me a
Prove
photo.
it.
Yeah, it's a really good
I'm
point.
gonna start doing that now
And
to people though, just for fun.
do not. There's so much I haven't recorded.
You saw
Plus,
so-and-so?
again,
Prove it.
think
in the
it's
in the photo
definitely
of the
a-
crowd, I'm there.
Yeah, that's me.
That's my
me,
favorite
me.
thing. See, if you don't take
I
the
love
photos and
doing
you
that.
rely on other companies to do so, it's one of my favorite games. Is someone like I did it with you before, Aiden, for the Powerwolf set. I was like, how many times can you spot Tanya in this?
It's like do
It's
a
my
shot every
favourite
time
game
I
to
see
play.
was it like red hair?
Yeah, it's take a shot every time you spot
Literally.
yourself, especially in like full set recordings. If you knew you were in front of a camera, or you knew that you were at the front and you would have been seen. It's way
Hmm.
more fun to relive it and try and spot yourself. Like, there's no point in being like, I was here. Did you know? Like, piss off.
It's like the
think
Instagram
so.
photos,
I
the
have
five
a
finger part.
question for you guys.
Sorry, go ahead, Stacey. Yeah.
Oh, sorry. I was just gonna say, like, I might have missed it, and I probably have, and if I have, I'm really sorry. And feel free to skip over. But how do you guys wash at festivals? Because everybody's different, I think.
Yeah.
We had this discussion of like, do we approve of showers or not? And I think it's like it's a completely different discussion topic that can have showers in it. Like, I've never been a shower person. I'm more of a take body wipes and facial wipes with you. Because I've also never been an absolute mad lad who just does like star jumps in mud. So I don't really need that element of complete body wash. It's 5 days of the year. Everyone else is going to smell exactly the same. Just deodorant, wet wipes, face
It's
wipes
true.
done. Personally, what about you?
Yeah, I'm the same. Yeah, and sometimes they have taps as well, so you can even wash your hair under a tap without having to go to an actual shower.
And have a water fight.
If not, dry shampoo is your friend.
Definitely. I think I do understand why showers can be beneficial, as I've said, but there are like, if you're going to shower once in the festival is enough, because those lines are huge. And again, it's just an element of consideration. Like, you don't need to be showering every day. It's a festival. Get a grip. If you wanted that, you would have bought a VIP hotel ticket. Like,
Also, dry shampoo.
Dry shampoo is
Yeah.
your king, honestly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it smells great. What other questions are there? I'm trying to keep an eye on the time. We have about 13 minutes left, so I'm sure we can chat about random other crap in the meantime.
Surprisingly.
I think we should probably go around and ask what our sort of some of our favorite memories of gigs and festivals are, and try and make them like as weird and quirky as possible.
Okay. Yeah.
Aiden, do you feel like you can start to give other people a chance to think?
Yeah, sure. Well, I remember one of the bands which I saw, which they did something special. He loved wine. This wasn't like a gimmick of this thing, but this Gogol Bordello I was watching, and he just loves wine so much. During his act, he would down a bottle of wine, like mid.
That's
thing,
not Rough Sock does
mid-song.
not endorse this.
That's the standard practice on a Tuesday.
But what was
No.
impressive, what his thing was, is like he'd pull out the cork with his teeth, and the best bit was where he'd then throw it into the center, and everyone would, instead of like drumsticks or anything, you would fight over this like cork, and there was like an entire battle over who got this cork, and nobody could decide if it was actually his one, because there was like 3 on the floor. But I think that was one of my stranger moments by the stage, but quite a few times when I've gone to festivals, I've been taken in by just random groups, because normally I go with like one or 2 people, and I find just getting to know who these people are, and then them just having, because we're learning a whole new personality, and some of these people are absolutely crazy. I feel like I'm meeting the RAMS Society, but every single day, and, like at their worst state at a festival.
The worst, yeah.
Nice.
Does anyone else
Should
have
we
any
move
moments?
to Stacey next? maybe.
Oh god, there's loads, but if you want like a really random one, I think this was at Reading one year. My friend's boyfriend, who we all met at the festival for the first time, put a bin bag over himself on the first day because it was tipping down with rain. And for the rest of the weekend, all of the other camps next to us kept going, "Oh, look, the bin's coming through!" Like no matter what he was doing, and trying to like chuck their trash in. I felt really bad for him.
Oh my god, that's really
I also
rough.
have a friend who, at the same festival, we found out that he has zero problem eating like cold baked beans, cold like hot dogs in a can, kind of anything in a can. He could eat cold,
Aiden
so he
looks
could literally
suspicious.
just crack a can open, put a fork, and start eating. It was so rough. Yeah, in terms of like strange ones, I think probably having everybody throw trash every time this guy walked past was up there.
Yeah.
Haley, do you want to go next, or do you need a little more time?
I don't think I have any weird ones yet. Sort of most of the gigs I've been to so far have been kind of mainstream, so less really happens. But my favourite sort of wholesome memory of a gig was the first one I went to by myself the day before my 18th birthday in Camden at this tiny little venue. And it was like the first proper kind of metal gig that I went to. And we came as Romans were the headliners. Met this brother and sister in the queue. I sort of adopted me because I was like, I turn 18 tomorrow and it's my first gig by myself. And they were like, we will protect you. And I was like, this is sweet. Ended up in the mosh pit with this girl on my shoulders, moshing, and the band were looking at us going, what the fuck? How are you doing this? Because I was like 17-year-old me with all these grown-up guys around me with this girl on my shoulders, just in the mosh pit.
That's amazing.
And it was a great time.
You give me flashbacks to
I've
such
got,
weird gig memories, but
I have so many weird ones. It's hard to narrow them down. In fairness, I think I've got like one really wholesome one, and then one really fucking annoying one. I'm going to start with the annoying one and end on a wholesome note, hopefully. The most annoying one, and anyone who was at Bloodstock 2016 will empathise, is Twisted Sister were headlining, and it was their farewell tour because they obviously disbanded after, and Dee Snider went and did his solo stuff. But it was also just after the whole Harambe fiasco. And in all of our wisdom, we managed to sing the phrase "Dicks out for Harambe" over and over again, specifically in the style of "We're Not Gonna Take It" by Twisted Sister. And you'd think this would have happened like 2 or 3 times. No, this was chanted the entire weekend from Thursday to Monday morning. And it was the Friday night. It was, technically Saturday morning at about 4 o'clock. I got woken up by a bunch of people who just stolen a gazebo from somewhere, and it was raining, and they were just walking through the campsites with a boombox singing this, and it was awful.
that's amazing.
And this happens every year. Like there's a new phrase that's
chant.
shouted every year. Like one year it was Shalom Jackie. Like another one was Pickle Rick, and my friend managed to projectile vomit at the end of Pickle. That was great. In terms of wholesome memories, the most wholesome one I ever had was when I saw Avatar with my dad. I think it was like 2018. We went to go see them in the Bristol SU, rep in Bristol Rocksock. And my dad is like, he was 48, 49 at the time. He's turning 50 this year. And he hadn't moshed since he was quite possibly about 20-ish, mid-20s, late 20s. He became I'm not going to say old, but old for his time. And he'd also, when we went to go see Avatar, just discovered via me the concept of a Jaeger bomb, because I showed him what Jaeger was and he kept drinking it with Coke. And I was like, here, Dad, have all of these. And he was like, what are you feeding me, child? I was like, it's got Jaeger in it and Red Bull. And Bristol had a deal on it. It was like 4 for £8 or something. I was like, I will have many, please. I will have 20. And just fed my dad them. And I wasn't really expecting him to do anything because he's a bit of a heavyweight anyway, until the final song. And we were all moshing because it was the final song. I was again there with my best mate Ben, who like grabbed my head, pistol whipped it round, nearly snapped my neck to see my dad moshing into me. I was like, oh no, I've never been more afraid in my life, because my 48-year-old dad, who's not a small chap, is about to push me into a wall. That was pretty great. I managed to get my dad to mosh again for the first time in nearly 20 years with the addition of Jaeger. So thanks, Jägermeister.
Thanks.
You reminded me of that story which you said about the guy in like full armor. Was it a Bloodstock?
There's been many a time, especially at festivals. Someone will always be wearing an entire suit of armor, looking like a knight.
I always found that just so impressive
Oh,
because that's heavy.
it's so heavy.
Yeah. Oh, you
Yeah.
see all sorts of weird and wonderful stuff. Some of my favorite costumes have been like people dressed up as robots and they just walk around with loads of cardboard stuffed around them. And that was when Evil Scarecrow played. You have people dressed up as like lobsters and all sorts of weird and wonderful crap.
Bananas.
Especially
Yeah.
because I don't know if Download does it, but Bloodstock has like themed weekends. They'll always announce what the theme is about 2 days before everyone turns
Ooh.
up. So like one year it was Rocky Horror Show, and there's so many men wearing some weird and wonderful stuff.
Amazing.
Just stick like saucepans over your chest or something. Done.
Another one was Man Baby Weekend. So there's a bunch of like full-grown 50-year-old men dressed up as like babies and like rompers and things.
Oh,
That was so much fun.
it's really creepy.
That sounds horrid.
That's all.
Oh dear. I'm fully convinced, and I'll probably leave this on the most disgusting note possible. I'm fully convinced that when we go to Bloodstock this year, because my father has promised me, and I will be bullying him, that for one of the days he's going to dress up as Britney Spears. Like full on schoolgirl outfit, pigtails. We're going to rock it. It's going to be great.
I am excited for this.
I might team up
If
with
that
him
does
for
come to
that.
fruition, friends, I will send it your way, and I'll
Oh my
make it
God.
public on the Rams chat so that the world can see it.
Nice.
A friend of mine
Oh.
once went dressed as Britney Spears to a fancy dress party, and he like everyone knew he had a great bum, which is part of the reason he did it. So he's in full schoolgirl outfit, pigtails, and a guy came up behind him and started trying to chat him up, and then he spun round with this massive full beard.
How on the Rams
Guy's face
podcast did we
turned
start
so
talking about
much.
Britney Spears?
Yes.
We
Yeah.
made it.
The
My
best
metal
line,
music
though,
tag may have been overstating it now.
Yeah, finally.
the heavy metal loving, fully bearded Britney Spears.
Clearly, I
Her
mean,
best
I'm
era,
sure-
Exactly.
one might say.
I wonder what music Britney Spears listens to.
Okay, and on that note, thank you to everybody who's
Demi
watching at
Lovato
this exact
likes
moment in time.
Jimmy Borgin.
Oh.
Yeah, good point.
Yeah, I read
Yeah,
that
so
somewhere.
thank you to everybody watching. I think Louis is currently watching. Who else is watching? Aiden, can you tell us who anyone else is?
We've got someone called Saddest Kitty,
Hi!
Yep.
which has been saying.
Hello.
That's. I can't
made
believe
it
we've
to
got
the
the
end.
saddest
Congratulations.
kitty.
So a big thank you to everybody who watched us live, and then also a thank you to anybody listening to this as a podcast pre-recorded. We love you greatly. Would appreciate it if you continue to do so, because otherwise I will be sad.
The saddest kitty.
I will be the saddest kitty. Well, so we will hopefully see you next week for a theme which is yet to be announced, but we will get there. And yeah, thank you for your time and peace out, bruh.
Peace out,
Thanks for
guys.
listening.
I need to.
Bye.
Bye.